Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Healthy Human podcast. I am your host, Jen Rulon, or some of you may know me as Coach Jen. Today's guest is Zeco Powell, and how we connected is I got to be on his podcast. And I have an amazing virtual assistant who paired me with a whole bunch of incredible podcasters that I feel like me being on their podcast, I have to give back in return that they are now being on mine. And I think Zeco has such an amazing story. He has such amazing knowledge just about weight loss approach, about metabolic efficiency, and we're going to get more into that. So today I want to welcome you, Zeco. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So give my followers, I say a 1-minute elevator speech, but how about a 2-minute elevator speech? Because your story is pretty incredible.
You're killing me here, Jen, because I love to talk about myself. So I can talk about myself forever, but let's see if I can do this in about 2 minutes or so, right? So of course,
Okay.
you know my name already, Norado Zeco Powell. Everybody knows me as Zeco. And my weight loss story is a little different than most people. I grew up in Jamaica where we were underweight, right? A lot of Jamaicans are underweight because we don't eat as much as, let's say, people in the US or in developed countries. So when I moved to the US, I was 116 pounds at 5'11". But then, yeah, so imagine I was really a string bean, right? So then later on I discovered weight training. I started eating more, and then my weight would fluctuate because I hear about bulk and I hear about dirty bulk. So I would dirty bulk, then I would do insane amount of cardio and then lose the weight, get ready for summer. It was a constant cycle, but I wasn't really getting real results. It was like I was either one side of the spectrum or the other side of the spectrum. Then I started running races and running like marathons, and I got a lot into that. Something that Jen and I have connected on, right? So because then I'm naturally an endurance athlete, so that was fun for me. But fast forward later on when I got into my 30s, I realized something that even though I was fit, I was never truly healthy. And that's a distinction a lot of people don't drive difference between being fit and being healthy. Because I still had asthma issues, I had eczema issues. My metabolic health wasn't great. I was either doing insane amounts of cardio or I was dirty bulking. I didn't have a really good flexible metabolism that we're going to talk about later. So one day after, because I used to have to leave work because I'll go home and I'm dizzy. Whenever the allergy season come up, I mean, it would hit me hard. I can barely breathe. My asthma, all this stuff's happening, and it wasn't related to activity. You know, some people can work out, their asthma go away. That wasn't me because I've been working out all my life, all my adult life. So then,
Sure.
when the doctor gave me pills, I said, "Hey, doc, okay, I'm tired of all this. You put me on all this medication. Is there something I can do outside of this?" And he couldn't tell me much. So then I started reading books from like Dr. Stephen Gundry and Dr. Mark Hyman, listening to podcasts from like Ben Greenfield and so on and so forth. And then I learned
Ben
a lot about,
Greenfield.
I love that guy. And I learned a lot about
Great.
gut
Yeah.
health, right? So when I learned that stuff, I started implementing them in my life. And fast forward now, I'm 40 years old. I'm off all my medication, been off all my medications for years. My eczema doesn't
Incredible.
bother me. My asthma doesn't bother me. I'm metabolically flexible and metabolically healthy, which we're going to talk about later. And
Exactly.
I'm at the highest level of my health than I've ever been in my life.
That's incredible. And you did pretty good. We almost, it was almost 3 minutes, but that's okay. You got to it. You got to it. And I love that. And gosh, you're right. With being 5'11", and what did you say? 116
16 pounds.
pounds. You were a beanpole. And of course, at that height and that weight, of course, you probably did really well in the endurance, with the marathons and half marathons and stuff. But then you probably started realizing, like you said, you weren't healthy. Were you fit? Maybe you were fit, but there was something missing for sure. Right.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So then talk to the followers. Well, let me ask you this. Like, were there health struggles that you grew up with, even though being from Jamaica, like sort of what we talked about, right? That you didn't have enough, you didn't eat like the United States people did. Was there health struggles?
Yeah, definitely. There are a few health issues that are common in Jamaica, and those
Okay.
are like asthma, bronchitis, which I had. I had more of the asthma more than the bronchitis. I had epilepsy at one point as well. I shouldn't be alive today, if I'm being honest with you. And then my ex
Really?
also runs in my family, and that's another huge issue.
Okay.
So that's also pretty common in Jamaica. Cardiovascular disease, but that's more towards the end of stage of life, not far as for younger people. But high
Okay.
blood pressure, which is what's connected to cardiovascular disease that may cause it, the problem that we have. I've never ever seen, Jen, these memes of like Jamaicans, how we're always angry. And so we're very angry people, and nobody knows why. Like, we're just naturally angry people, and that's the connection between why our blood pressure is always so high. Which, by the way, now my blood pressure is the best it's ever been. Because when I was in my 20s and I
Amazing.
was extremely fit, my blood pressure was still way too high for my age. It was unbelievable. When the nurse was like, "You may want to quit your job because your blood pressure is really high." But that's a different conversation for a different day. But those were the big things that I've had to overcome, that genetically I had to deal with.
Sure. Sure. That makes sense. What? All right. Let's talk about the weight loss and why do most weight loss approaches fail?
So that's connected to part of my story, right? Because
Yeah.
once I decided to start studying health and then started getting my certifications, I wanted to work with people. So initially I started working in a gym because I studied fitness and fitness nutrition. So I started working at a gym and I realized that there was like, I guess you want to call it an epidemic, right? Where it was like people was thinking the same way I used to think. You know, you cut your calories, do a bunch of cardio, you lose all the weight, but when it's bulking time, you bulk. Well, what they don't tell you is that if you're bulking and you're just eating whatever you want, first of all, you're damaging the health of your gut.
Mm.
You're causing other health issues. It may be raising your cholesterol unnecessarily, especially your LDL. You know
And
your
can you hold on? Can you tell people what LDL is if our
yes.
followers don't know? We know,
No
but
worries. So essentially, we're looking at there are two types of traditionally cholesterol. There's HDL and LDL, and LDL is considered your bad cholesterol. So when you get tested, you want your
right.
HDL to be higher and your LDL to be lower. Now, my carnivore friends may
Thank you.
completely disagree with me, but that's another conversation that I'm not going to get into today. However, with that
Right.
being said, you're causing so many health issues by this back and forth diet. And when people get to the point where they say, "Hey, I want to lose weight, I don't want to keep it off," they don't know how because they're thinking, "Okay, I'm just going to cut my calories and do all this working out," but that doesn't work because the only way to truly lose weight and keep it off is to have a healthy metabolism that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But when I was in the gym, I was realizing that people never really focus on that because they said, "You know what? Let me try keto. Let me try this diet. Let me do this diet." And then they'll go back to their regular way of eating and then they'll gain all the weight back. And they say, "Oh, keto is crap." No, keto is not crap. Keto can be used when it needs to be used. So there's a lack of knowledge around weight loss and weight management, and that's what I thrive to bring to my people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What so everyday healthy human, a person that, my followers are maybe in that 35 to 55 age group, sort of like just really wanting to be the best version of their lives for our next 50 years, right? That's sort of how I'm looking at it. So what can people like my age, I'm 51, what can we start doing and how can we start tracking for to be the best version of our lives through metabolic approach,
Okay. So the
health?
first thing I always say to individuals is you have to define that. Like, what is a better version of yourself? What does that look like for you? I can't tell you that. Jen can't tell you that. Another coach can't tell you that. You have to figure that out. Like, I was talking to one of my friends, and he told me we're talking about knowing your why, and he said to me, "Oh, this shows common
Yeah.
sense." And I said, "No, first of all, it's not common sense because most people don't know their why, including you. Because if you knew your why, you would be consistent. So knowing your why is not the cliche, people. It's a true thing. Now, I always say, ask yourself why until you can't ask yourself why anymore. That's just how I
Ooh,
look
I
at it.
like
For
that.
example, let's say about work. You know, you say, I wanna get good grades in school. Why? I want to get good grades because I want to get into a good college. Why? So I can get into law school. Why? So I can become a lawyer. Why? So I can become, you know, partner at the firm. Why? So I can live a good life. Why? So I can provide for my family. And then you just keep asking yourself why until you get to it. Because a lot of times when you get to, okay, so you can provide for your family, so you can be there for your children, you can't really ask yourself why anymore. Another way I look at it is that
Right.
is if you were to float above your body and you're lifeless and you look down on yourself, would you be proud of what you've done? So when I talk about health and
Mm,
fitness, the first thing is you got to know, what does that mean to you? Does that mean you want to have
sure.
more energy to play with your children? Does that mean that you want to be a better husband or a better wife? Does that mean you just want to be able to travel the world and do whatever you want? What does that really mean? Does that mean you no longer want to live in fear of what's the next thing's gonna happen? Because I've had people talk to me and say, I'm trying to live my life now because I don't know in 5 years if I'm gonna be able to do the same things I'm doing now. I'm like, why do you think like that? If
Right.
you know your why, you will start taking yourself now or taking care of yourself now. So later on, you don't have to worry about what's gonna happen later on. Like me, I love myself. I always tell people, look, short of me getting hit by a bus, there's nothing stopping me from being the top of everything that I do, right? And
Right.
even if I get hit by a bus, I'll figure a way to take care of what I need to take
Exactly.
care of. Even if I'm in a wheelchair, I'll do what I got to do. And that's my
Right.
why. That's what drives me. Yes, you can bring a person to the gym with you. Yes, you can run with somebody and work out with you. But what are you going to do if that person's not around anymore? It's good to have someone to motivate you from time to time. That is true. But we know that motivation is temporary. It's about
Mm-hmm.
getting consistent. And you cannot get consistent without you know your why. When I wake up in the morning, I want to lift some heavy stuff. I want to go for a run. I want to go for a swim. And every day I have to do something that just makes me feel amazing. When I pick up my guitar and play
Right.
it, I enjoy my life and I have a lot of energy. And even though I'm 40 years old, and I'm sure Jen has this experience the same thing, you you feel amazing. So you need to know
Mm-hmm.
your why. That's number one. What does that mean to you? I know that's a little bit of a rant, but I'm very passionate about
That's
that.
okay. I get it. Because I'll talk to my athletes about that same thing. Like, sure, you want to do an Ironman, and I get it, but why do you want to do an Ironman? And it's like, because getting up at 4:30 Monday through Friday is not enjoyable for everybody. And that's what you may have to do if you have a 9 to 5. You may have to do a workout in the morning, you may have to work, and you may have to do a workout in the evening, and you got to figure out that why. So,
One hundred
good
percent.
note. Good note. Yeah.
When you look at someone that's been consistent and someone who hasn't, it's always comes down to them knowing your why. I love to watch
Yep.
motivational stuff. I just watched Arnold's 3-part documentary on Netflix. By the way, this is not a this is not a commercial for him, FYI, because he's not paying me any money. But I just watched a
He
documentary.
should.
I know, right? And then before that, I watched Derek Jeter's documentary. I watched Michael
Ah,
Jordan's documentary as well.
yep.
Last Stand, right? And
Yep.
the one thing that stood out with all these greats, or any great which you watch a documentary on, they always know their why. They always
They
know
do.
when they get up, I'm gonna do this, and nobody's gonna stop me. They may have different approaches to it, but they
Right.
know it's in their mind, this is what they're gonna come. They don't wait for somebody else to tell them, okay, honey, let's go to the gym, or hey, let's go do this. Because there are so many great sport players, basketball, football, whatever, who have never excelled to the point of greatness
True.
in their sport. Even though I'm sure they've been basketball players more talented than LeBron, more talented than Michael Jordan. But if you listen, watch Michael Jordan's story, he would get up early every morning and practice. And if he had a
Mm-hmm.
good game, he would sleep in an extra hour. If he had a bad game, he would get up an extra hour. And he was
Right.
consistent with that. LeBron puts over $1 billion in his body every year. Now we don't all have $1 billion, of course,
No.
but Stephen A. always says on First Take that how is it that on the Lakers, the how old LeBron, 38-year-old, the 38
Yeah.
year old man is the most fit person on the team.
Yeah.
Because you
I
know
mean,
why?
look at,
Because that 38-year-old man knows his why.
yeah. I mean, look at Tom Brady. I mean, I know he's retired, but that guy was fit for what? How old was he? 40 when he retired?
Right.
Like that. And even my second podcast on the Everyday Healthy Human is my why, about why I started doing the Ironman triathlon. Now I have two whys. My first why is on the podcast. My second why, I actually wrote a TEDx talk about it. So, it's important. It's important. You got to know. I love it. I love it. So then let's talk about, so the first thing was the why. Second thing,
Second thing, okay. And I had to really talk about the why for a while because that's way more important than people actually understand. Because once you know that,
love it.
the next step is that you got to start figuring out what you're going to do next. Right now, that may be hire a coach, however it may be, but you got to figure out what's the next thing you're going to do. You have to have a plan. Like I said, with all these grades, they all have a plan. And most of them
Mm-hmm.
have a coach or multiple coaches, right? So you
True.
got to have a plan. That's the next thing. But let's talk about the everyday man, right? So the everyday man says, you know what? I want to have more energy. Hey, I want to lose weight. Weight loss cannot be your goal. I'm gonna say it again. Weight loss cannot be your goal. Because if that's your goal, you're gonna struggle for the rest of your life. Your goal should be to be as healthy as you can. The human
Love it.
body is designed, and this is something that people didn't know when I was working in the gym. The human body is designed to build muscle, burn fat, slow down the aging process, lower inflammation. These are things that the body naturally does. However, if you are unhealthy, your body can't do what it's supposed to do. When I train, my body creates inflammation as a response. But then how I eat afterward helps my body respond to that inflammation and lower that inflammation. But if I eat in a way where I'm actually creating more inflammation, then guess what? I'm not going to heal well. I'm not going to build muscle well. I'm not going to burn fat well, right? So you have to
Right.
have a plan. You have to take the long approach and say, look, I'm going to do this, but my goal here is making my body as healthy as I possibly can. Now, that let's throw away calories because I swear the people that talk about calories and all the calories when I rise to power, these people are going to be fumigated, right? So I know that.
Hey,
So,
hey, hey. I talk about calories.
hey, I talk about calories too. I talk about calories too, but I don't only talk about calories. That's how important.
No, that okay. There you go. There you go. Okay.
So let's talk about that. So calories are important, but you can only cut your calories so far. What you
True.
need to do is get your body to the point that is trained to do what it's supposed to do. And that's what we're going to talk about next, which is metabolic flexibility, right?
Perfect.
So
Yes.
our body has enzymes, and our body uses enzymes to break down fat, break down protein, and break down carbs. However, you have to have the right balance of these enzymes to do those things, right? So, for example, now in a natural, normal, most people, when you eat a high carb diet, right, your body is going to create more enzymes to break down carbs. When you eat a high fat diet, your body's going to create more enzymes to break down fat. But this is what the body does. The body says, you know what? You're not feeding me a lot of carbs. So I don't need to know how to break down carbs. I need to break down fat because that's what
Hmm.
you're feeding me. Which is why someone who goes on keto can then say, okay, I can start burning fat and burning fat for energy, and they'll run on fat no problem whatsoever, but they don't eat enough carbs. So when they later on decide, you know what, I'm gonna add carbs back into my diet, then what happens? Their body says, oops, I don't have enough amylase, so I can't break down the carbs very well. So because I
Right.
can't break down the carbs very well, your body's gonna more likely store it until it develops the mechanism to break down the carbs well. And I'm sure you, Jen, have seen it. Clients have come to me who've been on keto for years. I'm not bashing keto, by the way,
Oh
because
my.
I cycle
Right.
keto.
No, I get it. Hmm.
But I've had many clients who've come to me over the years who have been on keto and long-term fasting and all that stuff. But they're like, every time I eat carbs, I get bloated. I don't feel well. And I was like, yes, because you were on keto for too long, because your body's supposed to cycle keto. Same thing, let's say someone who's eating a low protein diet and they would be like 30 grams or 40 grams of protein all their lives. And then you try to tell them to eat 100 grams of protein a day, which is like 100 grams of protein is like 2 meals, and you're like
Right.
100 grams of protein, and their body's like, oh my God, they feel bloated, they feel sick, they don't feel, because you know why? Your body lost the enzyme to break down the protein. So the next thing is
Right.
you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan to understand how am I going to train my body to do that, which we're going to get to that, of course, at the end of the conversation. We'll talk about lumen, right? The next thing I
Right.
want to talk about is you got to talk about it from a health standpoint. You
Okay.
cannot, and that's why my show is a weight management show. If you want to manage your weight, you have to focus on your body's ability to lower inflammation. You have to be able to lower stress levels. Every health expert now talks about meditation and mindfulness and prayer. Ben Greenfield talked about it. I remember a couple of years ago. I think it was a study where he said that people who go to church actually live longer, right? And he connected that with their belief and their lower stress levels because most
Sure.
people who go to church believe something is going to work out, something is going to happen. They don't get as stressed out as a normal person. I mean, don't quote me on this.
Right.
I'm phrasing a little bit, but that's kind of where he was getting at with that, right? People who have a
Yep.
belief of something bigger than
It's
themselves and
true.
higher than themselves, so stress, and stress is like inflammation. You can't ignore it, right? But
Right.
you can train how you're going to respond to it. How do you start? And give you
100%.
about a quick example. Quick example. The first thing that in the morning usually is the alarm. You get up, you gotta hurry up, you gotta go, you gotta, make breakfast for the kids, and you gotta do this, and I gotta hurry up and get to work, and I gotta run out the door, I get the traffic. If you live in Orlando like me, everybody drives like 5 miles an hour, so you'd be honking in traffic. Then you get in, you gotta log in. Then you get to work, you see your boss. I don't want my boss to see me slacking off, or I'm still over here and I'm stressed out because this guy's gonna talk to me, this girl's gonna talk to me. I don't feel like dealing with them. They're getting on my freaking nerves. Like all that stuff is
Right.
stress. Because
Stress.
from the
Mm-hmm.
moment you wake up, your body thinks that you're being attacked. You're creating
Right.
inflammation. You're ramping up your cortisol levels. Those things, and you're damaging your health. Every disease in the world is connected to chronic inflammation. You talk about
Sure.
Hashimoto's, talking about thyroid problems. You go and look it up. I challenge you. Go and look it up.
Right.
It's connected to chronic inflammation, and stress and diet are so key in that. Now, there's so many other factors that's involved in it, but you have to
Yeah.
have a plan. So it's knowing your why,
Knowing your
working
why.
on the nutrition piece, which are the gut enzymes, but also the lifestyle piece, and you got to put those all together.
100%. I love that. The why, the nutrition, and the lifestyle piece. That's beautiful. With a little bit of time, let's talk about the product that we discussed a little bit about, it's called Lumen, Lumen. And I have been given this as an influencer, and I've been playing around with it for the last 3 months because I'm trying to figure out when I'm burning fat, when I'm burning carbohydrates. And it's such a great tool to have. But I think you can explain a little bit better, and we'll put the information below. We'll put our code and all that fun stuff. But I think you could tell a little bit about the Lumen for my followers, because I think some people might be really interested in this product. And then if they want more information, they can always go to your podcast, right?
That's true. That's true. Sure, your boy
Yes.
Zeco, you know how I roll. Lumen is actually really easy for me to explain. It's really the second piece
Cool.
of what I was talking about in nutrition, and the lifestyle also plays a part in it. But I won't go into that part as much. Essentially, the goal is this: whenever you are not stressed, meaning that you don't have high levels of activity, you should be burning fat for energy. When you sleep, you should be burning mostly fat for energy. Not always, because you're not in ketosis. Is not the goal, but mostly fat for energy. When you're resting, I'm sitting here talking to the beautiful Jen over here. I'm burning fat for energy. When you're on
Right.
the couch watching Netflix or watching TV, you should be burning fat for energy. If you're doing slow, like walking or zone 2 cardio, you should be mostly burning fat for energy, right? Now, the whole premise behind Lumen is that the research showed that when they tested people with healthy metabolism and unhealthy metabolism, and when they tested them, they realized that people that were overweight, they had unhealthy metabolism. And weight is not the only factor, by the way. But they realized that when they tested them after they woke up from their sleep, they were burning carbs for energy. They were not burning fat. People with healthy metabolism, or the quote unquote regular weight, were primarily burning fat for energy when they wake up. So they said, that's a factor. Because they're realizing that when you're supposed to be burning fat for energy, you're burning carbs for energy. So
Ah.
what Lumen does is lumen is a breathalyzer. You blow into it and it
Right.
reads the CO2 level in your breath. Now, the whole idea behind it, exactly, the whole idea behind that is the faster your body goes through the Krebs cycle, the more CO2 your body produces, which means that you're burning more carbs because your body primarily burns carbs easier than it burns fat for energy. That's why you need carbs when you're stressed or you're doing high types of workouts and stuff like that.
Right.
So when you blow into lumen, when you wake up, usually about 15 minutes or so after, it tells you if you're primarily burning fat or carbs. And then at that point, their nutritionists give you a guide of how you should eat for that day. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a diet. It's not like you're gonna eat like this
Right.
forever. It's based on if are you primarily burning fat, you're primarily burning carbs. So if somebody comes from keto, they're probably gonna get more carbs to eat because their body needs to learn to burn carbs.
Right.
Somebody who's been eating a lot of carbs all their life and they can't burn fat well, they're going to get more fat, and then Lumen is going to slowly introduce more fat into their diet. Now, the whole idea is this: eventually, if you're on the fat side of things, you're going to get better. You're going to get better at burning carbs. If you're on the carb side, you're going to get better at burning fat. So you get to that
Fat.
middle, which
Yep.
is metabolic flexibility. Because when your metabolism is flexible, when you're resting, you're burning fat. But when you're going to crush a workout, or you're going to go to Disney and walk for 20,000
10,
miles,
20,000 steps. Yeah.
right? You may need a little more carbs in your life. Or if you're talking to
For
me,
sure.
because that stress people out, you may need some carbs in your life too, right? But in general, you want to have that flexible metabolism. And that's why I say your focus can't be weight loss. Your focus is to heal that
Right.
metabolism, get that metabolism to be healthy. And Lumen is a fantastic tool in
It
getting
is.
you to that step. They also add in the amount of protein you should eat as well, because
Right.
as they add the protein to your diet, that helps you. Now, something else that's cool with Lumen is that they have a group. I think it's like 30 or 40,000 people in there now on Facebook. Once you purchase the product, and you
Yeah.
have a few group experts there, and
Such as yourself. Yep.
I'm not
Yeah.
as active as I used to be, but more people join. Hey, I might jump back on. But then
Right.
they ask question. Hey, how should I work out? They ask about, hey, what I'm having this problem putting my nutrition together today. Do you have any guidance here? Hey, do you have any problems? Do you have any guidance on improving my sleep quality? Hey, do you have
Yeah.
any guidance on improving stress? Like, we have all these conversations there. Or someone said, I'm at a sticking point with fasting. Am I fasting too much? Or am I not fasting enough? I'll
Mm.
talk to them and teach
Mm.
them about, hey, this is what you
That's
should do
great.
if you want to get your results. So we don't just have you blow into something and then it gives you a number. We
Right.
also have people that guide you along with the nutrition.
That is true.
So we combine everything. Or we actually say they combine the nutrition piece along with the lifestyle piece, so you can really get your
Mm-hmm.
results.
Yeah. And, for me, because I was such a carbohydrate burning person for so many years, finally I'm getting down to the fat burning, a little bit better than I was with a carb, because I think you explained it beautifully. Like that makes sense to me now. It's like, oh my God, why am I not burning fat? Why am I not burning fat? But I think for so many years in my triathlon space, I burned the carbs, right? And now I'm finally doing a lot better. I don't eat as many carbs and I'm doing more of the fat and higher protein and fasting. But then I also do intuitive eating, and because that's just how I have to do life now. So, anyways, let me, where can listeners find you online, Zeco?
Your boys, they were all over the internet. You can look for me. Just
He
Google my
is,
name,
y'all.
Rado
It's
Zeco Powell.
awesome.
It'll show up, right? It's nice to be that famous these days. It's nice, but seriously, all you gotta do is just go to my YouTube, the Math Over Mind Experience, or you Google my name, Narado Zeco Powell YouTube. I believe Jen's gonna put it in the description
I
of the
will put it
podcast.
all in the show notes. Exactly. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
So yeah, and I have
Yeah.
motivation videos for you of me working out. I have
Great.
short 6-8 minute videos talk about specific topics like intermittent fasting, keto. I just released one on tips to lose weight, what people don't tell you. And then I have
Yeah.
interviews that I do with Jen, which I don't know when this is coming out, but maybe by then our video is going to be out as well.
That sounds great. I have one final thought for you. What can you give my followers or the listeners? What's the one final thought that you could give my followers about how to start their own transformation and become their own beautiful butterfly?
I'm a beautiful butterfly. Well, I'm not a beautiful butterfly yet, though. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a
you
butterfly.
are.
I don't know if beautiful is a
You're
word I would use.
beautiful.
It made me feel all nice and gooey and stuff.
There you
But
go.
to be honest, it really, I can't say much other than knowing where to start and knowing your why and knowing your
Love
why,
it.
focus on your health. And the last thing I want to say, well, actually, we're going to say this because we talk about epigenetics, which is the lifestyle changes that you make. We have a lot more science now that
Hmm.
shows that the lifestyle changes, the epigenetic piece is a lot larger than what you inherit, your genetic piece. So just keep in mind that some people say 85% to 25, some say 95 to 5, some, I'm sorry, 85 to 15. Sorry, my math was off.
Sure.
75 to 25, so on and so forth. But whatever the number is, we know that that's bigger. And I'm a prime example of that. Everybody in my family still struggle with asthma. My 18-year-old cousin just got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I'm the healthiest person in my entire family, and I'm one of the oldest. And I'm the only
Hmm.
one that's not on any medications whatsoever. Now, I'm hoping that we have them change their lives, but I can't tell people what to
Right.
do. But
But
it,
this is something we may have to talk about next episode for with each other. But you have the growth mindset.
yes, I
I
like that.
have the growth. You have the growth mindset. I have the growth mindset. And I think that can help people become a better version of themselves. But we'll talk about that at another time. But I think what you said beautifully is finding that why, really digging deep. And if you have any questions about that, please reach out to myself. Please reach out to Zeco. We are around. We are on the gram. We are on YouTube. And you guys, or I shouldn't say you guys, like that's my Midwest coming out. I should say, if y'all are loving the Everyday Healthy Human podcast, we would love for you to rate, subscribe, share the episode, and leave a comment. Because down in Costa Rica, maybe Zico, you know this, we say pure vida.
Did not know.
Ciao.